Good afternoon, everyone. Enjoy the morning, yeah? Did you all learn more than nothing this morning? Yes, I thought that might be the case. So my job, very nice job, I think, is just to talk about the final step of the process, which is when you're actually in front of the customer and you want them to give you money in a way that you're happy with and they're happy with. Now, I say those two things very important. If you do a bad sales job, they'll hate it, but you'll probably hate it more. And people always know about the thought of selling, I hate being sold to. I hate being sold to badly. I love being sold to well. I think it's fabulous. And I don't think sales is a dirty word. I think sales is an incredible word if you do it right. And if you're doing wrong, it's awful. Now, one of the wonderful things about getting this right is have a think about when you might be able to use this. You might be able to get, as Drayton said this morning, existing customers to buy more stuff. You might be able to get people who aren't customers yet to give you some money. Though I think selling is really just the same word as influencing, so you can map this across to conversations with your children. You can get them to go to bed on time. You can get them to tidy their bedroom. I knew my techniques worked quite well when someone told me a week ago, maybe 10 days ago, something like that. He said, I said very often when I work with companies, I work with them for a bit and they say, right, I'll see you in 3 or 4 weeks, and when we come back, you all have to have made some sales in the next month because of what we learned today. So when we come back, you have to tell me about sales you've won. Here's my contact details. Make sure that you ring me if you need help. And then when we come back, we're going to hear about your successes. I find that's quite a good way to get people actually motivated if they know they've got to look their colleagues in the eye and say what they've done. And this guy said, he talks about some business he won. He said, but my greatest sale was this. He said, I convinced my wife that as a family, we needed me to have 2 motorbikes. So he's actually okayed me getting 2. And the reason I think this is a really big sale is even I only thought we needed 1. So I thought that was quite good going. So if you want to try and get your partner to agree to you buy 1, 2, 3 motorbikes, this might be the afternoon for you. So I'm a big believer, Drayton talked this morning about how you're all more intelligent than him. I certainly believe you're more intelligent than me, and therefore I think you'll probably learn most when I'm not speaking. So the way I like to do these things is to make it super, super hyper practical, such that if I finish at 5:30, you could use the stuff at 5:31. Like none of this, you have to go home and think about it. So I want to talk about it like that with you, such that it's super practical and super quick. Is that all right? Yeah? So I have got here, there's about 18 slides for the next 4 hours. So that's a space of about 1 every 10, 15 minutes. So we might not even do all those. But let me tell you some of the things that you said you wanted me to cover this afternoon. The most common one, by a street, was writing proposals. The general feeling was, as I spoke to some of you before this, was proposals bring more pain than anything else. I can have had a lovely conversation, it all went well, they said send a proposal, I press send, then silence. And then I run back, and then they didn't ring me back, and then I had to go in pestering mode, and so I backed down and it didn't work. Or someone else said, how can I write a proposal quickly? What we tend to do is copy last week's. And I said, do you copy last week's if it didn't win? And they go, yes. I'll say, here's a quick tip. Don't do that. I've also heard people say about how do you close in a way that feels comfortable. It's really important. There's a lot of words with sales, actually, I don't like. Like, close sounds like you're manipulating people. How do I close the bastards down? It feels a bit like that. That shouldn't be the case, but you do need to drive action from the meeting. And if you do nothing else at all in the rest of your life, if you want to win more business, a very simple thing to do is make sure every single interaction with every single customer always ends with you agreeing next steps. Okay? It's almost like we could go now. If you did that for the rest of your life, you'll make a fortune. Because when you have meeting 1, the only aim of meeting 1 is they'll let you have meeting 2. Fair? Yep. Or if meeting 1's gone so well it's gone to proposal, you agree that you can send a proposal and then you can have a conversation. So every single thing you do must have next steps. So far, so obvious. But I want you to think about maybe a PowerPoint deck you've recently delivered to a client, and I want you to think what the last slide would say. If your last slide says next steps, then there'll probably be some. If your final slide says thank you, they often say, you're welcome, now get out. Or if your final slide says any questions, maybe you've got a picture of a blue question mark underneath with a circle. Recognise this? Yeah? What you tend to find is maybe you get the odd question or two, maybe not, and then they say, now get out. Or my personal favourite is when the final slide says conclusion. Well, can you see that makes the other person think something's concluded? So they say, now get out. When you have a meeting internally, is your last agenda item ever called any other business? Have you noticed what happens? That lets the person with the biggest gob talk about their pet hobby that day. And if you notice another thing, the person with the biggest gob doesn't always have the biggest brain. Your last agenda item of every meeting should always be confirming next steps. I can't think of anybody more ignorable in this room than I am, but if I wasn't ignorable, if I was your boss, I would order you to do that. I cannot see why you would have a meeting ever without ending it with, so what's happening next then? Otherwise, why have the meeting? And the way I think about these sort of communications is, if you imagine the part of the body of the other person that you have the biggest impact on going big and green. So let's say you talk to someone, do any of you do credentials presentations? Yeah? 2 words and both of them strike fear into my heart. So someone comes in and says, I'm going to do a credentials presentation. Now yours might be fabulous, don't know, but when I hear credentials presentation, I think someone's going to present their credentials. In other words, they're going to tell me why they think they're ace. Yeah? The first slide, in fact, might look a bit like this. Now, I don't know about you, but have you ever heard someone else say you were founded in 1922 and thought, my word, they are old? When you hear someone say 94 offices throughout the world, there's 2 things I think for that. Firstly, oh, so you expect me to pay for that, do you? And the other one is, I don't care about that. And we have a look down here. Tell me anything else that's wrong with this slide. Yeah, good. Acronyms, IIP. I can think of 10 things wrong with this slide, and I'm just one human man. And there's loads of you people. We've got 3, and I gave you 2 of them. What else is wrong with it?
It's all about you.
Yeah, good. It's all about me. It's all about me. Unless you woke up thinking, oh, I'd love to know about Andy Bounds, not good. What else is wrong with it?
It's all historical.
Yeah, good. 2 things there. It's all historical. If you think about this from a sales point of view, the only things customers are interested in, well, 2 things. Number 1, themselves, not me. And number 2, their future, not my past. So the only things customers are interested in, can I improve their future? And I'm going literally 180 degrees the wrong direction by saying about me in the past. There's no benefits in there. Remember what Drayton said before about titles? What do you think about the title? About Us. I'll tell you other titles I don't like. It's quite easy to remember them because they all begin in the word our. Our heritage, our experience, our history, our this, our that. I was doing a sales pitch recently with a big IT company, who I'm not allowed to mention. They're IBM size-ish, but they're not IBM. But they're that sort of size. So it's a big IT company, sell multi-million-pound stuff. And they had a proposal, no word of a lie, which was called Our IT. Now, I tell you, the customer wasn't that bothered about their IT. So I said, what's the customer's big pain point here? And they said, the big pain point is their competitive advantage. And I said, right, put the word how in front of it, put competitive advantage at the end, and the title changed from Our IT to How Our IT Will Transform Your Competitive Advantage. Well, straight away, that's worth opening, yeah? If you're talking to somebody who wants to export into Belgium, please call your proposal Helping You Export into Belgium. Don't call it About Us. Once I worked with a pharmaceutical company a couple of years ago, and I said, thanks for choosing me. Why did you choose me? By the way, if ever you win business, debrief that. Don't debrief while you lose. Debrief while you win. Yeah, when we win, we don't bother analysing that forensically, but when we lose, we want to see how we can be a touch less shit next time. That's no good. So I won this piece of work and I said, why did you choose me? He said, to be honest, your proposal title was pretty helpful. And I said, why? What's that? And they said, well, one of your competitors called it Our Proposal. And I thought, I've got to beat that. That's good. Another one called it Our Proposal to X Pharmaceutical. And you called it How You Can Generate £50 million in 3 months. He said, you would have had to mess that up. I want 10 things wrong with this. I think we're already on 6. It's not enough. What else?
None of it's quantified.
Say again?
None of it's quantified.
Yeah, good. None of it's quantified. It's just sort of generic grey stuff. So in effect, what's happening, the client has got this grey, he's sort of all right, Andy, but I'll tell you what will be quantified, my fees. So you've got this grey, you're sort of buying that, and it's going to cost exactly £25,000 exactly. Which means the client has to work out if the exact 25,000 is worth the grey, ethereal stuff. That make sense? Here's a quick question for you. When you propose to a client, I bet your costs are black and white. Is the value you bring in black and white as well? Or are you making them do the calculation? I know it's going to cost 25 grand. Is it worth it for improved market perception? Don't know. Okay, good. What else is wrong with this?
The problem being about them, it doesn't actually say what they do.
Yeah, that's right. It doesn't say anything at all. It says, I'm old, I'm big, I'm fat, I'm clever, I'm everywhere, and I do something called IIP. Just out of interest, let me just say another thing. Do any of you feel treated, I don't know, almost like with respect and like a special case when they saw this slide? Do you feel I created this specially for you today? Or maybe do you think I might have been using this actually since 1922?
You might use the font since 1922.
Say again?
You might use the font.
Yes, the font is really nice. Yeah, font, that's another one. When you get to 10, we'll go for anything. Don't like the font. What was your point?
It feels like a barrier. There's exclusivity here. There's arrogance in that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But also, you wouldn't be in the room for some people unless you had that. So
Yeah.
take that as a given.
Yeah, this is at best what gamblers call table stakes. This enables you to play at our table. If you didn't have this, you wouldn't get to play. But that's never going to make you win. Yeah, it's like one of the things you need if you're going to sell to some people is to be able to be a human. But you won't go and say, hey, guess what, I'm human. You say, well, you wouldn't have got in if you were a robot. You know, it doesn't make sense. So why talk about this? Good, like this. Let's do another one. It looks rubbish. Anyone get that? Does look rubbish. There's a saying, isn't there, that if I see crumbs on the in-flight table of a plane, I think the wings are going to fall off. You know, if they can't do something as basic as clean this thing, I doubt they can do something as complicated as fly it. Okay? If someone has done a slide that looks like that, that's what I call crumbs on the in-flight table. If you think, when I'm trying to be impressed by you, that slide is good, when you know I'm watching you, and I know you're trying to impress me, what do I think you're going to be like when I'm not watching? You're actually doing the 12-month project to try and revolutionize my company. Good companies can't do stuff like this. It doesn't make sense. I was talking to a group of lawyers and had this slide, and someone pointed out that there's a comma in the 72,000 and there's not a comma in the 7,000, and he couldn't get past that.
Also, they were founded in 1922. 5 years of those were good. That makes me think the other 90 were probably...
Yeah, it's been a pretty bad. Yeah, we were dreadful for 87 years, and then it kicked right off. Yeah, really good point. I never got this founded in 1922. Look, if your companies do it and it works for you, fine, crack on. But if the competitor came on straight after and said they were founded in 1923, is that better or worse? I have no idea. It's even made me speak funny. If ever you're using PowerPoint, by the way, the best thing about PowerPoint is this. If I go to the keyboard and push B, it blanks the screen. That's the sort of program we're doing today, ladies and gentlemen. It's this cutting-edge sales techniques that'll take you through. The only way to stop you looking at that is to get rid of it. And on the advanced course, we'll show you how to get it back. It's very good. No, you just push B again, to be honest. Here's another one. Sometimes, if you are using PowerPoint, you'll want to jump to another slide. I'm currently on slide 2, but let's say I desperately want to go to slide 9. Can't, can I? Because I'm on slide 2, so I've got to press up 7 times. Well, you don't. If you want to go on to slide 9, which is how to write proposals, then if I press 9 on the keyboard and enter, it jumps straight there. I know. I don't mean to undermine Drayton, but that's better than any of the stuff we saw this morning. Or indeed ever. A couple of other things about this which you haven't noticed. If there is anything on this slide which is interesting, and there isn't, but if there is, it's on the bottom half. Most people, when they communicate in this order. They build up to the main points. Okay? You do the same, I'm sure. If you're writing, you'll start off with, we found it in, and the final section will be, by the way, this is how we'll make you a fortune. Or maybe what you'll do is you'll write a proposal, and you'll say, this is the background, this is a bit more about us, this is how things might work, da-da-da-da. At the end, you'll make £1 million. Not just in the whole document, but also in your individual paragraphs. What you'll do is you'll start off with, this is what we'll start doing with you. We'll start this on day 1. We'll do this day 2. Final line of the 8-line paragraph says, and that will result in £20 million of sales. Now, you know this. That's what everyone does. They think in this order. They build up their points, and therefore they speak in the order they think. So they come to the most important points. What happens to someone's concentration during communication? It goes down. Can anyone see a really big problem with getting more interesting as someone switches off? At the end of my session with you this afternoon, I'm going to ask you a question based on the first thing I showed you, which is a fictional company's year of formation. I'm going to say, what year was I founded? And all of you will remember it, because we said it right at the beginning. I mean, some of you will forget to pick your children up from school, but you'll still remember founded in 1922. It's a strange thing. But the strangest thing about communication, I think, is this. You know all this stuff. I asked you what was wrong with it, and with respect, you've just obliterated it. This is the strange thing, though. What we hate, we do. So what we hate people doing to us, we often do ourselves. And I know this is the case because I asked 2 questions to every single client I've ever worked with ever. Question number 1, what do you think the communications are like in this place on average? And everyone always says, not too good. They're all right, not very good, really. And my second question is, so overall they're not very good, but would you say you're above average? And every person says what? Of course I am. So let me get this right. Every single person, apart from me, isn't as good as me. And everyone thinks that. Well, I'm not very good at maths, but even I think that's mathematically impossible. You can't have everybody above average. I mean, by definition, half the people are below average. So the only way you can get everyone thinking they're better than the norm is if we do things to others that we hate doing to them. And that makes sense, yeah? If you're doing a presentation, you hate it when someone like me reads out loads of wordy slides, but when you're doing a presentation, you put loads of words on the slides to remind you what to say. Did you all bring examples of some work with you? Yeah? Some sales material, some marketing material. If you did, please get it out. If you didn't, look longingly at your neighbour to hope they did. And I mean this nicely, if both you and your neighbours have spectacularly failed the easy brief I gave you to bring something, find a more useful neighbour. Okay, this is super important, all right? So if you're not next to someone with something, move. Okay, it's not like an old people's home. You can move chairs and everything. It's brilliant. Okay, everyone. Oh, wow. Listen to that. So could I ask you, now you've got the stuff out, I want you to do a very simple exercise. I'm going to give you 2 minutes, and only 2 minutes, to have a look through your material with a customer's eyes, the same sort of eyes that just read that. And I want you, like a primary school teacher, to circle 10 things that you could change. Might be the titles, might be anything. Length of paragraph, might be rubbish visuals, might be you don't like the look of it. Anything at all. You've got 2 minutes to circle 10 things that you could change. I'm not asking you to change them, just find 10 things you don't like about it. You're 2 minutes late, gentlemen. Start now, go.
Oh, that's good. This is mine.
Okay, another half minute, ladies and gents. Remember, looking for 10 things you could change. Right, ladies and gents, I'm going to stop you there. Please don't be irritated I'm stopping you there. It's very important you only do this exercise for 2 minutes, okay? And I'll tell you why. One of the biggest barriers in my experience of working with groups of people like your good selves, like Drayton and I are doing today, is at some point, if Drayton and I give you loads of ideas, you'll say to yourself, this is all very well, but I don't have time. Yeah? Drayton's stuff was brilliant. I've got 73 ideas. I can't do 73 things, so therefore I'll probably just do nothing. I'm not saying you're like that, but that's often what happens. Best will in the world. You go back, you've been away from the office for a day, so you're really busy tomorrow. You don't have time to do it tomorrow, and all of a sudden the momentum's gone. So that's why I like to do an exercise like that, which is 2 minutes long. That's it. So don't give me you haven't got 2 minutes to make some improvements. Yeah, that's why. Because very often people say about, I haven't got time. And I always say, and I try not to sound smug, but it always comes out smug. So I'm going to say this sentence. I don't want it to sound smug, and afterwards I'm going to ask you if it sounds smug. I don't want it to sound smug. So people say, we haven't got time, and I always say, yeah, but you see, time isn't about time. It's about priority. It's smug, isn't it? I don't want it to sound as smug as it does, but it's true. People have said to me things like, we moved house 6 months ago. It's a magical time. We haven't had time yet to unpack all our boxes. I did, however, play Call of Duty for 6 hours at the weekend. There's always time if something's important enough. So, ladies and gents, let me ask you, tell me some things you think you could change which would be really quick and easy to change, but would have a big difference. So I'm looking for virtually no work, which would have a big difference. What did you find out what you could do? Yeah, so 2 things often come up, the titles and the order. Yeah, the titles. If the titles are boring, as Drayton said before, they just won't read it. If you do something called Our Experience, it's not as likely to be read as How Our Experience Can Help You Export into Belgium. I mean, assuming they want to go to Belgium. Obviously, that would be ridiculous if you wrote something. Yeah, changing the order. It's an interesting thing. I was talking to someone before about price, and they said, my advice always is to put price at the beginning because that's what the customer wants to see. And that goes against what I found to work well. So I'm not saying I'm right and everybody else is wrong, but this is how my perception is this. I've got a price of something and it's £24,000. Is that a good deal or not? I don't know. No, I do. The price is meaningless unless you compare it to something. But I bet you thought 2 things when I said price is 24,000. I've no idea, but also sounds a lot though. Actually, it's a Bentley. You know, it's fine. It's quite good value, actually. So the way to get price in, I think, is to put price after you built the value. All right, so we're going to do this. We're going to do this. As we've talked about, the value to you is a couple of £1 million if you get into Belgium. Even if you spectacularly fail, it's still worth £1 million. And at the end, by the way, if you care, we're only going to charge you 100 grand. If you can find a bank that'll give you £1 million if you put in 100 grand, you crack on. Right, so I always find, it's my experience, you want the price towards the end, not towards the beginning. But that's what works for me and every person I've ever told it to. But you do what you like. Good. What else? What else could you change very quickly without doing much work?
Make it more visual.
Yeah, make it more visual. Very good. My favourite visual. Oh, it's a problem because I'm on slide 2, but I need to go to slide 13. Anybody? What can I do? 1, 3, and enter. This is my favourite visual. What I mean by after is where the client is after working with you. All right, so let's say they want to export into Belgium. I like to use the word after instead of benefits because people tend to get benefits all wrong, I find. So benefit is why the client's better off afterwards. It means the same thing. So how you'll achieve exports into Belgium, or how you'll boost market share in Belgium. I find that's a better title than our process. And this visual works dead well. I've yet to see a proposal in my life which isn't improved by this visual. Okay? What you do is this. You set out however long the program is, and you've already discussed this with the client, so when they see the proposal, they go, yeah, I recognise that, we talked about it. So it's going to be 3 months and you go end up in Belgium. Over the 3 months, this is all the stuff that's going to be happening at Andy Bounds Limited. And of course, you get copies of these slides. But obviously, in the 3 months, you're going to have to do more than nothing since we're trying to get you into Belgium. And these are the things that we're going to be asking you to do. Now, of course, if some of these need a bit of extra explanation, what we would do is we'd have a little number 1 by that and a number 2 by that and put some notes underneath. But there's a section basically how we'll get you there, and underneath you do that. Now, I find every proposal is enhanced by a visual like that. Tell me why. We'll talk about negatives about it in a second. Positives, why do clients like that? Yeah, good, it's deliverable. We're accountable. They can wave this in our faces and say, what about this? What else? Time-bound.
They know what they have to do.
Yes, they know what they have to do. What else?
They haven't got to read anything.
Yeah, they haven't got to read anything. It's easy. I mean this nicely. What was the word you said? Pilot-proof or something, Drayton? Muppet-proof? Idiot-proof? What did you say? He's not even listening. Idiot-proof, that's it. Idiot-proof. That's idiot-proof. Think of this from a psychological point of view. Do you think they'll quite like the fact they see a lot of things on your row? Yes, they're getting a lot for their money. Do you think they like knowing what their row is, but also it's quite sparse? They like that. And also, when you said before about visuals, one of the great things about this is the alternative of writing this long form. Well, that would be a boring couple of pages, wouldn't it? The other thing I find as well is it encourages pace. Very often when you're having a good conversation with someone, even if they sound interested, you still takes quite a while to get it over the finishing line, even though they've said yes. Yeah. And one of the reasons I find in my experience for that is because they can't quite visualise what's going to happen on Monday morning. So they've chosen you, they love you, they don't want to work with anyone else apart from you. If you were to say to them, right, so what's happening on Monday? They go, I don't know, but I want to work with them. Well, that gets rid of that totally because they know what's going to happen on Monday. If they say yes now, you can crack on with this. If they take 3 weeks to say yes, this takes 3 weeks to start. And I tend to find this is very good for adding pace and urgency when you're talking to people. Now, obviously, if you don't like that, don't do it. It'd be ridiculous. But I find that very useful. The golden rule of being a doctor, by the way, is first do no harm. You know this? Like, don't make the patient worse. I think it should be the same rule if you're a delegate on a thing like this with Drayton and me today. Ask yourself, with any of these new ideas, would it do any harm? Don't ask, will it definitely work? And don't actually ask, do I feel comfortable yet? Because some people don't like new things. Instead, ask, would it do any harm? So ask, would it do any harm to put the timeline like that in a proposal?
No.
No, you might as well try, because the worst that happens is no harm. Let's have a smile break, I think. Very good. So I've had a bit of a rant there because someone said the word visual. I think some of you are thinking, oh God, I don't want to say anything in case he rants off again. But what else could you do which should have massive impact for no work?
Change the amount of time your name comes up in the proposal.
Here's a lovely exercise. Now, you know the search facility in Word? Look at a recent proposal you've written and search your company's name and then search the client's name and see which comes up more. You always make, so when you made a good point where there's a bit of hysterical laughter in the back. It's a really interesting point. So the lady who said that, I've never seen before. I have, she's one of my clients. We did this at a previous company she worked with, and do you remember this? There was an 11-page proposal, and I thought after a bit, with respect, this is shit. It's really poor. I've got to give feedback to the client, and I don't know how to give feedback which is in any way anything other than brutal. So I thought, I'm going to use this search facility. 11-page proposal. I typed in the company name of the company this lady worked for. She didn't write this proposal, by the way. It was somebody else. You're welcome. The name of the company in the 11-page proposal, what do you reckon? How many times it came up? What do you reckon? It was a belter. 109. Fucking brilliant. All right. And then I put in the name of the client, 9. And then I thought some of this looks cut and paste. And when people cut and paste things in, they don't say you and your, they say our clients. So we help our clients to do this. We help our clients to... They cut and paste it in from marketing material. All right? So then I typed in our clients and found that 18 times. So in this 11-page document, they talked about themselves virtually all the time. When they didn't, it was cut and paste generic stuff. And occasionally they said, by the way, we can help you. All right? It's a really useful and quite devastating exercise to do. It'll take you like 10 seconds just to see what the split is. And if you're thinking, yeah, but I'm better than average, and all of you are thinking that, that'll be interesting to me. So I've been very lucky in my job. I've worked in 35, 40 something countries, a lot. I'm with loads of companies, loads of people. And I've read loads of proposals and loads of pitches. And I find that this list on the flowchart here is the things that most people don't get right all the time. So let me just quickly run through them. And then after I've gone through this, I'm going to ask you to look at your documents again to see if any of these have just opened some new things for you. Firstly, this is the order I think they look at them. Look and feel. If it looks like that, you're already in a mess. All right? So look and feel. So look at it. Gut feel. Is it good or not? All right? Crumbs on the in-flight table. Secondly, the length of it. It's an interesting thing. When you're the person that's selling, you often think that the thud factor is good. When you're the person buying, you think, God, I've got to read this bloody thing. By the way, what's the best way to reduce the length of a proposal? Do you know? That's definitely one thing. Get a summary at the beginning. That helps because then you don't write as much because you said the stuff. Good. What else? This is my favourite sales tip in the world. Ask the customer what he wants. That's it. There you go. There's a prize. Drayton, give him a prize. Or not. So what you do is this. Because some of you will think, yeah, but I don't want to say what you want in the proposal. It looks weak and I'm trying to convey certainty and da-da-da-da-da. But as Drayton said, you might be brilliant, but you've no idea what's going on inside their head. So here's the phrase I use. Very happy, there's a few of my customers in here who think, yeah, he does bloody say this. I say, very happy to do the proposal for you. I don't want to waste your time by including irrelevant stuff. So do you mind if I ask you a couple of questions about it? Now, what can they say to that? They can't say, no, be irrelevant. Yeah, waste my time. They always say, what do you want to know? I say, well, can we just agree what the content of the proposal should be? Like, what headings do you want to see? And if they say something which I think is brilliant, I'll say, right, I'll do that, that's fine. If they say something I don't think is brilliant, I'll say, well, I can certainly include that Do you mind if I just share with you what some of my most successful customers asked for as well, to see if you'd find that interesting? Doesn't do any harm, trust me. You know, is it flattery? Is that word, yeah? Would you like to hear what some of my most successful customers wanted in their proposals? I don't mind. Let's have a look at a couple of other things. So the first thing they say is look and feel. Then they have a look at the length of it. Yet to find someone who goes, oh, brilliant, I've got a 74-page proposal to read. The title and subtitle. If it's called Our Proposal, they're not hurtling to open it. Has anyone ever received an email called FYI? Hurtled to open that, have we? Has anyone woken up on maybe a Friday morning and known at 9 o'clock that day they're on a conference call called Update? And woke up and the first thought is, it's today. They're then going to look at the contents to find the stuff they want to see. So you want to have a contents in there and it needs to include good stuff. Their eyes are going to be drawn to the heading, so it needs to be in there and have good stuff. Visuals like the timeline. People like visuals. We know this. It needs to be easy to read. The eye basically is a lazy thing. It doesn't want to sweep across the plane of big landscape stuff. So narrow the columns, put stuff in portrait. There is a sector which is very good at helping people read quickly. If they couldn't read quickly, nobody would buy the stuff. And they know that, and they put everything very, very, very narrow columns. Does anyone know what that sector's called? Yes, newspapers, because people skim read it super fast. So you want to make stuff portrait. And if you're doing PowerPoint, so it can't be portrait, because by definition it's landscape, then split it into 2 columns, so at least it's narrow. Short paragraphs. You can read various bits of research on this, and they all come to the same conclusion. Stop me if you're surprised by this. People don't like long paragraphs. All right? So shorten them. I have a rule, 4 lines max. We've got sentences here. I'm going to ask you in a second to have a look at your document again using all the stuff on here. One of them is, what's your sentence length? If you look at what people retain, they don't retain everything in long sentences. All right, so if you've got any sentences going on more than a line, probably what's happening is you're using the word and instead of a full stop. All right, I think the longest sentence I've ever seen was 8 lines long. That was brilliant. A good test, actually, is read it out loud, and if you burst into tears, that's too long. And phrases as well. Why is it? When you speak, not you, when people in the world, not us, but everybody else apart from us, because we're all better than average, when we speak in normal, but when we write in corporate. So we write things like, prior to the commencement of. But when we talk, we say, before. Please find enclosed herewith. If you read it out loud and you think, God, sounds like a toss has written that, that means you've written in corporate, not normal. Now, if you're really good at writing, by all means, like write it down and then edit it. I find I'm better at talking in normal than writing in normal. So I talk out loud, say my piece, and when it sounds right, then I write it down. So either talk and then say it a few times, then write it down, or if you prefer, write it down and then read it and see how it sounds. But if it doesn't sound right, it could be better. White means lots of white space. People like white space. Again, I've yet to see an email say, thanks for sending that proposal through, beautifully bunched, couldn't read a thing. Just let me give one more example and I'll take your question in a second. One of the executive teams in one of the banks, I thought this was really funny, they didn't, was getting fed up with people doing very boring presentations to the board. So, you know, this is a career-defining presentation to the board. You're going in, you want to impress them. And so people often say too much stuff when they're trying to impress important people. And they were fed up with people having really long presentations. They just dragged on, slide after slide after slide. They hated it. So they said, right, no more slides. The rule is 5 slides maximum. We are not having any presentations longer than 5 slides. So what do you think everyone did? Tiny fonts. So it's the same length, but now you couldn't read it, so it's doubly annoying. Oh, that was very funny. Sorry, sir, you had a question.
We changed our proposal to 2 columns portrait, put the heading to the left
Mhm.
2 inches,
Mhm.
and the feedback universally was, thanks for leaving room for us to scribble and annotate, rather than go to narrow margins in Word and fill the whole thing.
Loving that. Top idea. This is one of the great things about the rule of first do no harm. If you were to say to a room of people, I've got an idea, I want you to do what he's just said, so many people say, well, that wouldn't work, and I'll tell you why. Well, you've no idea, you've no evidence either way. You've just got this gut feel and it's new and therefore it's totally wrong. But the rule of first do no harm, just try that. The worst that happens is, can you imagine, we were just about to buy till we saw your narrow columns. I mean, what's going to happen? I want to get into Belgium. You've proved you can get me into Belgium. You've even narrowed your columns. But until you tell me the date you were founded, we are not talking again, mate. Where's the map of your office? Was your company formed by 2 people merging? How many staff have you got? Nobody gives a toss. Needs to be a bit varied. If it's not varied, then they'll get bored at some point. A quick squiz through, you'll quickly see if all your pages look the same. If they look the same, they'll probably get a bit bored. I always like having battles about this with brand police, because brand police say, yes, but everything has to look the same. I say, yes, if you want to bore the audience, it does, you're right. The CTA is the most important, but the least sexy point. Most important, but least sexy. CTA stands for call to action. The single most important thing in your document is the call to action. So if you have done a proposal, unless the final section is called something like immediate next steps, to accept this proposal, please hit reply and da-da-da. Or immediate next steps, as agreed, I'll call you at Wednesday at 10 o'clock to discuss this. If there is no confirmation of next steps in your document, there probably won't be any next steps. One thing which I haven't specifically talked about here, I've alluded to it a bit with length, is one way to keep things a bit shorter is to play a game which I call Keep Bin Appendix, which is where you get to the end of your document and you have a quick, or your presentation, whatever it is, and have a quick squiz through and think, is that so critical I need to keep it? Or frankly, can I put it in the bin? Or I'll put it in an appendix. Now, the nice thing about Keep Bin Appendix is this. It will not do any harm, might well shorten your document, but it doesn't take very long. So I worked with a lady recently on a presentation. She had 30 slides. We did this. It took 5 minutes. And of the 30, 12 were kept, 9 went in the appendix, and 9 went in the bin. So in other words, 18 came out. Now, your maths is better than mine, but that means in 5 minutes we took out the worst 60%. Yeah? First, do no harm. You've got another 90 seconds. In Liverpool, we call them Bezzy mates. You might just call them best friends or neighbours. I want you and your neighbour to play a game we also play in Liverpool. I'll show you mine. You show me yours. What you're going to do is this. You're going to have a look at each other's documents if you feel comfortable, and if you don't, it's like school. Cover it up so they can't see it. And I want you, either and your neighbour or you on your own, however you want to do it, to come up with 5 new improvements you can get to this based on what you've heard me talk about or based on that super idea that you heard then about proposal headings. So 5 new ideas you currently haven't got. And if you can't get them on your own, you're going to need your neighbour. And I mean this nicely. If your neighbour's no good, turn the other way. Talk to someone else. Okay? Your 90 seconds start now. Go. He's called Louis, yeah?
Yes.
The photographer. Oh, thanks a lot. Thank you. All right, you're getting good shots, yeah? How are we doing, team?
I actually think this one is pretty good.
Cool.
Yeah.
But the nice thing
Because I
about
worked on it.
Right, you carry that company, Anna. Well, the nice thing I like about this exercise is either you think, oh, I'm doing pretty well, or you think of 2 things you can change. Well, either's
Still
good.
find things to change,
Find
though.
things to change.
Yeah.
You can always get better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So should we do this one?
Sure.
I think this one.
Hello.
Quick question for you.
Yes.
For doing the diagram, so I've been following your ways for a little while. And
Okay.
I like it.
Good.
It's worked.
Yeah, good.
Hence I'm here.
Yeah.
But I get lazy. Here's a proposal I did yesterday, and I did your timeline, and I got lazy, and I didn't do the most important trick in the history of everything because I don't have a tool that
Okay,
makes it easy
cool.
to do that graphic.
So 2 ways you can do this, I find. One of them is just do it like that, 2-column table, date and action. It's fine. It's not as visual as that, but it's okay. The other one, which I've done occasionally as well, is if I like to draw a timeline on a piece of paper with a client, so I give them a pen and me a pen and we do it together, and I say, do you want me to type this up, or can I just photocopy it and attach it to the thing? And everyone loves that because they're very wedded to what they've created.
They did it.
All right?
And
Yes?
how would you create it if you would you?
If I was going to do that, all I do is I ask my PA, I delegate it. So you see the
No, I think
lady...
that's probably the right answer. By the
No,
way.
it is,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
Don't-
don't-
you're
yeah, because
brilliant at all
this is
sorts of stuff. Don't do that
drives me
shit.
nuts. I'm trying to
But Emma over there, hold on a sec. Just wave. Stay there, wave. Right,
So I just said
go
my
and
shit to
go and
Emma.
find her later. All right? Go and find her later.
That's fantastic. Andy.
That's not quite the point I want. Ask her, she'll tell you. All right, everyone. Okay, everyone. Right, let me show you there. So, same question again. I'm a big believer the quickest way to learn lots of great stuff is to hear clever people give you ideas, like that wonderful idea we heard before about the proposal column. So, tell me some new things you're picking up from this exercise. What else can you do, or what else have you suddenly realised which will make a big difference for no work? Andy can't hear you. No idea. Yeah, slashing it down, yeah? Just cut it down. Best out, read it out loud. As soon as you read it out loud, you'll quickly become quite intolerant of it, usually. Right? If you already write like a ninja, then happy days, but most people don't. Okay, what else?
But also, one of the things I brought along to the front page of our website and have some content
Yeah.
because ours doesn't tell you anything.
Yeah, more content than none. I love what Drayton said before. You've got to write enough to get them interesting and earn the right so you can have a rant. But a couple of nice pictures doesn't earn the right. Yeah? Good. What else?
It's interesting. It's a university, but they've written it. But I'm a businessman, and it's not telling me what I want to hear. But it's fantastic. And by asking me, I put the words. Well, that's what I want to hear. So ask the person that's going to buy it from you to put it in another way.
Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. I'm going to talk about this a lot during the second half of the session. Basically, what I want to do is my session's in 2 halves. The second half will bring everything together. So if you have a new opportunity, what to do first, what to do second, what to do third. So there's loads of structure in the second half. The first half is doing this sort of stuff. Open your eyes to new things, give you quick wins. Yeah. So I don't want you to worry about it being too scattergun, because as long as we're firing with new stuff, I can give you structure later on. Yeah. But that idea that you've just said then is really important. Like, I'm going to talk about this after the break. 3 words as far as proposals and pitches go. The 3 words are this: confirmation, not exploration. Confirmation, not exploration. In other words, your written stuff and your pitches should confirm what you've already talked about, rather than exploring new things. So if the first time they hear that you were founded in 1922 is in the pitch, that's you exploring stuff. So your ideal when you're writing a proposal, those of you who do that, is you agree everything verbally and then confirm it in writing. You are more persuasive verbally than a piece of paper ever could be.
Would you do a summary, sort of an executive summary?
I always do, if that's what the client wants. Yep. So question there, would I always do a summary? Yes, I always do. And I also get the main points in the covering email. Think about the way things are going to be read. You send a proposal attached to an email, some of you, yeah? So let me tell you what they read before they even read your proposal. Number one, your name. Remember Drayton said the first thing to look at is your name. Secondly is the email title. Thirdly is the covering email. Fourthly, get this, is the document file name of the attachment. So calling something proposal 1236, let's hope the buggers buy, is not a good idea. If you care, my proposals are always called Andy Bound's Proposal Re, and then whatever their main thing is, accessing Belgium. Because what will happen is they'll probably forward it on to their mates, maybe, and they go, this is Andy Bounds' proposal. And my email title is called, as requested, comma, our proposal about selling in Belgium. So I have the word proposal, I have the word as requested, I have the word Belgium, and all that goes in the covering title. Hello, John. Enjoyed our meeting last week. As we agreed, I've briefly summarised everything in the attachment. If when you read it, anything pops out you want to ask me about, here's my mobile. Otherwise, I'll call you at 10 o'clock tomorrow, as we agreed yesterday. Can you hear what I'm doing there? I am absolutely not sending the proposal without first agreeing when we can speak afterwards. Because if you send a proposal without agreeing when you can speak afterwards, what happens? Yeah, you've got to rekindle it. And it's much harder to reignite it when you're not in front of them. Okay? So again, when you're in the meeting, imagine finishing the meeting like that. They've agreed what they want in the proposal, probably some sort of summary at the start and various things, and you say, right, great. So this is what I think the next two steps are. I'll write down what we've just agreed, send it through to you. And then, of course, we'll need to have a discussion about it once you've read it. So I'll be able to get it to you tomorrow. When's good for you for us to discuss it when you've read it? First, do no harm. First, do no harm. If they say, well, I need to show it to a couple of my team, you say, yeah, of course, I'd expect that. So maybe can we put it in beginning of next week, end of next week? I don't mind. I mean, we're better off putting someone in. We can always take it out if need be, but telephone tennis is rubbish. So when I leave the room, I've been basically told, this is the stuff I want you to do, Andy. This is the stuff I want you to write in the proposal, Andy. Yes, you can send it me tomorrow, Andy. And yes, we'll have a chat on Wednesday at 10 o'clock, Andy. Well, what happens to my confidence when I start writing that proposal, do you think? I don't have any of this. Do you have planning meetings ever? I always think the better name for this is guessing meeting. Or, you know. Now, some of you will think, I don't like Andy's phrases. They clearly work for him. Fine, don't say my phrases. Say stuff that works for you, but I think you have to know your phrases. Because if you don't know what your phrases will be, do you know what you'll say in tomorrow's meeting? What you said in yesterday's meeting. So unless you stop and actually think, what am I going to say at the end of the meeting? What am I going to say to find out proposal? If you don't think in advance, you're hoping the right words come to you in the middle of the meeting. What are the odds of that? You're welcome. Okay, so imagine my talk finished now. I want you to look back over the notes you've made. And I'm going to point to 3 or 4 of you just to ask. If the talk finished now and you were only going to make one change, what would it be? That's my question. So look back over your notes. So put a big asterisk or a circle, or if you're into highlighting or drawing clouds, whatever it is, I want you to choose the one thing you change. If we stop right now, what would your one change be? I'm just hoping there's not a whole host of people going, press the B button more. Yeah, it was downhill after that, to be honest. Now, the thing you've asterisked there, by asking you to choose one, and maybe you've got 2 or 3, that's good. Can I just ask, have you all got more than none? Got more than none, all right? So let's do the numbers here. That means that we've got like 60, 70 new things. Imagine if we all work for the same sales team, the power of that. Yeah? And if by the end of the afternoon you've all got 4 or 5 things, the power of that. By the way, the really observant people here will notice we have Louis taking photographs. Okay? So if anyone doesn't want their photo included in whatever we do, please go and see him afterwards. The way he'll remember your name, it sounds ironic, is he'll photograph your face and make sure we exclude yours. All right? First, do no harm. The thing you've asterisked, I find this sort of thing very interesting, actually. The thing you've asterisked is actually not at the minute an action, it's a lovely idea. So let's say you've asterisked, I'm always going to ask what people want in the proposal. Now that's actually not an action, it's an idea, it's a lovely idea. This is how you turn it into an action. I want you to think about when you're first going to do it. So think who you're seeing tomorrow and write down the name of the person you're first going to try that thing you've circled with, or the opportunity. I promise you, if you can't think of a person or an opportunity, you will literally never do it. Okay, you've got to identify. Think who you're seeing tomorrow. Righty. Now, obviously, we don't want to know who the person is because that's way too personal, but I would be interested to hear some of the things you're asterisking. The reason is you might well have asterisked something that someone else in the room has forgotten. So I'm going to start with you, basically, so you might want to be preparing your answer, and I'm going to point to someone else in a minute, so if you want, you can just copy what she says. That's probably easier. So tell me one thing you're going to do differently.
The short exercise. So you said there's always time. You can always find 2 minutes. So
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure that there's a meeting that's happening tomorrow. When I go in there, I'm going to focus people to you've got 2 minutes to evaluate this and tell me what you think.
Absolutely love that. Any of you who've got a team, that's a great exercise. I mean, let's face it, it doesn't take long. I'm going to say it takes 2 minutes.
And it sort of hones your ideas a bit. It's
Yeah.
the immediate.
Yeah, cool. Love that. Right, you, madam.
Me.
Yes.
I'm going to think about have I articulated the value before putting the cost.
Good. Have I articulated the value? Your ideal is you want a pound sign by it. Yeah. I was talking about this to a group of people doing an Australian video conference, or a video conference to some guys in Australia yesterday. And I was talking about this, and they said it's very hard to articulate value. And they said, how do you do it? I said, well, ask the client what value they attribute to a successful outcome. And they go, well, what if they don't know? And I say, well, you then say, well, if you don't know the pound value of doing this, how do you know it's worth doing? Yeah, unless we can talk to your boss and say the bottom line impact is X, it's very hard to justify to the boss paying Y. And the analogy I used was, your boss, Nick, who's paid for all these video conferences, if I hadn't said to him, how much is one sale worth and how many people will I be training? So if we just make one sale over the year, it's going to be worth this. And he goes, yeah, so the video conferences cost that. Unless I'd done this, he's then got to do the mental arithmetic of, Andy's going to definitely cost this, and he's doing 20 video conferences. Is that a good price for 20 video? It's almost impossible for the client to do it, yeah? So you have to help them, I think. You just do. That's really good. What about the back row, the naughty rows we'd call it where I'm from? What about you, sir? What have you got?
I'm going to ensure from tomorrow that every interaction with the client or prospect has next steps as the last meeting agenda on it.
Loving that one. Thank you very much. And you, sir?
How my service is going to improve their business.
Excellent. And we're going to talk about that. I'm so excited. What about you, Celine?
I'm going to agree a follow-up date when I send a proposal.
Yes, good. I love this. And we were talking briefly before about how some customers say, oh yeah, that sounds fine. Go and write a proposal, which is a polite way of saying get out. It's a very good way to say get out to a salesperson because it's very hard to turn down doing a proposal. But in my experience, if you say, yes, that's fine, you could spend 5 hours on this thing. They were never going to read it. They wanted you to get out. Yeah? And I think it's the most obvious thing for them to say, but it's the most disrespectful thing. So you expect bloody hours and the emotional energy you put into this thing, but they're never going to read. So if you say, yeah, I'm happy to do that, let me ask a couple of questions. What do you want in there? If they say, no, don't mind really, and when shall we speak afterwards? Well, maybe never. Then it's giving you quite bad vibes as to whether you should crack on. Sir, what are you doing tomorrow?
Well, I had a similar thing actually, being a bit more proactive about organising follow-up steps.
Cool.
Especially before sending a proposal.
Yeah. Cool, absolutely love that. Right, very good. So I'm going to stop there. So some people, when they've heard this stuff, say, when we looked at this, Andy, why do people do this? You know, we've gone on this journey with you, and I don't know if it's going to make me better, but it's sure going to make me intolerant of every single thing our company's ever done. Thanks a lot. Yeah? Why do people communicate like this? Well, let me tell you what drives us to act a certain way. Now, this thing I'm about to share with you is the most interesting thing I've ever read. To me. You can look at one of these two ways. Either, God, what is it? Or that means it's rubbish, this talk, after this. All right? This is the highlight of what we're doing between now and... Yeah. Because, why do I think this? Because it explains why sometimes I'm ace and sometimes I'm not. Yeah, and you know sometimes you're ace and sometimes you're not. This slide, to me, explains it. Now, let me just describe what I mean by action. I used to call this motivation, and people got confused with the word motivation. Motivation is the actual action you take, the will, the desire to do the action when it matters. So when you wake up in the morning, you might think, do you know what? I really am fat. I'm going to lose some weight today. I'm motivated. But on the way to work, you walk past Starbucks, and as always happens, you pick up the cake. Now, that's what I mean by a driver of action. Do you pick up the cake or not? It's not what do you think ages before, it's when it matters. So at the minute, you're all very motivated to try this new stuff, but when you're in the next meeting, will you pick up the cake like you normally do? Or will you walk past it, which is what you want? So if you can master this, what it does is it helps you be good when you're passing the cake, or when you're in sales meetings, or when you're asking about proposals and so on. This is the first driver of action. It's the most common thing you see in life. It's the weakest, but it's the most common. And that's what you call external. In other words, somebody else saying, please do this. So at the minute, today is all about Drayton and me, who are not you, so we're external to you, saying, here's our advice. If we were your boss, we might say things like, I know you're very busy. I love you so much. But please, could you do it by Friday? We might say, bloody do it by Friday or you're fired. But either way, it's external. Whether it's nice or horrible, it's external. It's not you. And this is very important. I've got a 2-year-old, and we're not having a debate as to whether he should run out in the middle of a road or not. You know, it's like, don't do that. So you have to start off external. But after a while, hopefully, it doesn't need to come from me anymore. It comes from you or it comes from him. And this is what we call internal. Or I prefer the word here, desire. So we started off with external. I think you should improve your proposals and your pitching, blah, blah, blah. Internal, you begin to think, I think I'm going to do this, actually. So external, your partner says, you're fat, lose weight. Internally, you think, actually, I could do with shifting a pound or two. Now, what's more powerful than that? Well, more powerful than that, if you're talking to coaches and corporate types, they use the word visualization. Which always sounds a bit wanky, I think, but it's very important. I prefer the Disney word, which is imagination. This is where you imagine it being ace. So let me show you what I mean by this. I want you to imagine that 6 months from now, somehow, Every single time you speak to any customer whatsoever, all this happens. By magic. Don't know how you got there 6 months from now, but every single time. You always ask about the proposal, you always agree the content, you always agree when you're going to speak afterwards. If they don't show any enthusiasm for it, you gracefully withdraw from the conversation, and it's always ace. Imagine if this happened all the time without thinking. Tell me, why would that be good for you? Tell me any benefits at all of being like this all the time. Any benefits at all?
It's a habit, so it becomes automatic and you repeat it.
Yeah, good. So it's becoming a habit, it becomes automatic, you repeat it. So why is that good if this happens all the time without thinking? Yeah, loads of money, more successful, good. What else? Yeah, good. It's quicker, actually. It's quicker. What else? Yeah, different than everybody else. One of the greatest differentiators I have, I've been told, is that you asked us what we wanted to see in the proposal. Isn't that weird? In today's world of trying to be different, they're the things that people often notice. Good. What else? Yeah, I was going to say you feel good. What happens to your confidence when you're writing a proposal if they said, please, to high heaven, include X, Y, Z? You know, you don't spend ages wondering what to put in it, do you? Okay? So there's all these benefits. Now imagine if by magic you could be like that and get more money and more successful and quicker and everyone thought you were ace and you felt bulletproof every time. That's cool. Now that could easily drive action. Because you think, God, I could be like that actually. That would be amazing. And I think of the four, that one is by far the most interesting. I get really interested in this. It's not the most powerful, but it's the most interesting. The most powerful driver of action, when you're walking past the cake shop, do you pick the cake up or not? Used the word before just then, habit. Habits drive action, more than anything. Particularly in times of stress. And even if you love meeting with clients, it's not without its stresses, or if you like the word adrenaline, something's flying around you then, and it's very easy to behave tomorrow like you did yesterday. I bet when he first messed around with his column widths in his proposal, it felt a bit funny and they had like meetings and thought, do you think this might make us go bankrupt? But actually when they did it once and it felt okay, you get into the habit of doing it. Now the reason I show this very early is, if our session finished now, I think we've gone through the first two. It started off with my ideas, then you paired off with your mates and it became internal. Some of you will have gone to imagination and thought, yeah, I think I can do this actually. The trouble is, unless we change habits, you'll drift back. It's not your fault. Our brain is wired to automate stuff. It's a good job. Otherwise, every morning you pick up your toothbrush and your toothpaste and think, now, how do I do this again? Yeah, what do I do with this? Your brain seats, have any of you ever driven home and all of a sudden realised you were at home and thought, how on earth did that happen? Yeah? How many times have you gone to a meeting, let's call it a Monday morning meeting, and let's call it update, and thought, kill me now. I hate these. Everyone hates these. The only reason to have it is habit. It's the only reason you have it. But if you stopped having it, it'd feel weird. So I want to just share this with you because I think it's going to make a big difference to when we have a look. So my job is I would love you to not be this, because otherwise you need people like Drayton and me saying, don't forget, don't forget. I'll at least want to get you there.
This is a visitor announcement. Could Charles Pender please return to the reception at the beginning of the tour? That's Charles Pender to the reception at the beginning of the tour. Thank you.
It's always nice when everybody else talks, because I just wonder if that's going on inside my head only. So it's nice that you're going, what? What are you talking about, Andy? If we start getting to imagination, I think if we could win a bit of work here, that's good, but you've still got to break the habit cycle. So let's have a look at how we can break habits. Have your mindset right. Please could you write down for me very quickly your company name. And underneath your company name, write down what you think is the best thing about your company. Do you want me to do the faraway pants shot? I'll tell you what, write two things down that's good about your company. And underneath that, maybe leave a line. Underneath that, please, I'd like you to write down something you think's dead good about you. So if I was interviewing you and say, so what's so special about you then, my friend? Write down what you think one of your strengths are. Now we're going to have a bit of a chat about what you've written about your company. I'm not going to talk anything about what you've written about yourself, but obviously you can do the mapping exercise after we've talked about companies. You can then apply the same lessons to yourself. Made the mistake years and years ago of working with a team who knew each other very well and said, so what do you think about one of your strengths? And someone who said, well, everyone thinks of me as really intelligent. And everyone burst out laughing, and I thought, yeah, I won't be doing that exercise again. Right, so tell me about your companies. It'd just be interesting. You've all got to sell them, so you kind of need to know your selling points. So tell me any selling points at all of your companies. Shout some out for me.
Integrity.
Oh, loving that. Integrity. Premium. We're experienced. We've got great people.
Innovative.
Yes, there you go. Go on.
Successes.
Successes.
Scale.
What?
Scale.
Scale. Give us a couple more. Yeah, we've got fantastic client benefit. Thank you, sir. You can always tell when something's gone quite well because a couple of people go, right, we've got room for just two more bottom right. Tell me some other things.
Technology.
Good technology and one more. Expertise. Right, start there. So we've got technology and we've got expertise. Now, before we do anything else, ladies and gents, I want us to look at this list, listen to this list, and when I finish reading out, I want a feeling of smug warmth in the room. So we've got here integrity, premium, we're experienced, great people, innovative, successes, we've got scale, big enough to cope, small enough to care. Fantastic client benefits, great technology, great expertise. A couple of people thinking, okay, we'll take that off the website.
Then it's empty.
Yeah, that's right. Other people say global, we say G-local because we're everywhere, but we... Hey, it gives me a career, this, don't knock it. So I want to like this list because I really like you. Tell me any problems with this list. Yeah, there's two issues with this. Firstly, if you weren't here today but your competition was, they would have said the same thing. And that is, in marketing parlance, a bugger. So instead, what we want to do is we want to do something which is compelling. But do you know a way to be different than the competition? It's not as expensive as you think. All you have to do on the way home is go to a special shop and buy red hats. Because if you wear red hats, your competitors don't wear red hats. Different. Being different is the start, it's not enough. I've never, ever bought from anybody, ever, because they're different. First and foremost, I buy if they can help me or not. There's only one of those, the future client benefit one, that even vaguely addressed me. I think the rest of those are what you call features, not benefits. And I can tell the features, not benefits, because they all have the word we in and not the word you in. We have integrity, we have premium, we're experienced, we've got people, we're innovative, we have successes, we've got good scale, we're technical, and we're experts. If you want a simple rule of thumb, and Drayton knows much more about this than me, so obviously chip in here, I think benefits tend to have the word you in them. Is that all right? So one of my things that makes me see these things a different way to many people, I guess, is the person who taught me to speak when I was 2 is blind. My mum's blind. So therefore, I'm good at explaining stuff, I hope. She tells me I am. Now, if I say I've got a blind mum, full stop, is that a feature or benefit? It's a feature. I'm describing myself. It's unique. My competitors don't have blind mums. And if they did have blind mums, I'd buy a red hat. And if they bought a red hat, I'd buy a blue hat. I could always be different. All right, this is what I call pulling the full stop too early. I've got a blind mum, full stop. Marvel at that. This table is made of wood, feature or benefit. This table is the woodest table in the world, feature or benefit. Feature. It's a glorious one, but it's still a feature. Until I get rid of the full stop and put the word you in it, there's no benefit. I got a blind mum. It means I can explain things well, which means I can help you explain things to people who are blind to your charms, which means I can help you win more work than you thought possible. Yeah, okay, that's cool. What are you talking about your mother for? This table is the woodest table in the world. Therefore, everyone's really jealous of you. They want to be you. They want to touch your table, but they can't because it's yours and you are, you know that exclusivity Drayton was talking about? You are top people in the room. Yep, he's taking photos of the table. It's that good as we go through this. So when we talk about having your mindset right, very often when people sell, they talk about themselves. So have a look at your selling points and then your own individual selling points. If it begins with, if you could put I am in front of it, then that's like that. So if you're saying, I have integrity, I am innovative. Look at how you described yourself. I am hardworking. I am loyal. Okay? Definitely good, definitely valuable, but there's no word you in it. You could add to that all the services that you do. So you could say things like, I deliver this. What have we got here? I do innovative stuff. Okay? I have technical know-how, I'll deploy it. So if you're an accountant, you say, I'm a great accountant and I complete tax returns. Yeah? If you add these two together, you get why the customer's better off afterwards. And my customers pay less tax. If you could see one of three accountants, a good one, someone who does tax returns, or someone who will slash your tax bill, where are you going? Yeah? Nobody wants you at all. They want the afters of you. If I'm out networking and tell people I'm a consultant, without fail, they say, between jobs are you? Because I'm talking about this. If I say, well, I consult with some of the world's largest companies, they go, tosser. But if I go here and say, well, I help companies sell more than they thought they could, I know what people say when I say that, because I say that. What do you think people say when I say, I help people sell more than they thought they could? How do you do that? Or, oh, we need you. Or, God, tell me more about that. No one has yet said tosser or between jobs are you. Yeah? To my face. And I'll take that. So there's two ways to read this thing. Either have your mindset right, as in have it set correctly, or actually, when you're selling, you should have your mindset to the right. In other words, to the afters. I don't want an accountant. I want someone who can make me pay less tax. I don't want an IT supplier. I want to do things more quickly so I can get home and see the family. Sometimes. I don't want a lawyer, but I don't want to go to jail. I don't want a newspaper. I want the news. I don't want a pair of glasses, I want to see better. You heard the Theodore Levitt quote, the business school professor? Nobody wants a quarter-inch drill. Have you heard this? They want a quarter-inch hole. Nobody wants you. They want the afters of you. So can I ask you very quickly to go down the list of things that you wrote, and I want you now to think of two afters your company gives to clients. The way you work this out is, after working with us, you're better off because... So why am I better off? After you've done your work. The clue is if you're a website company, you couldn't use the word website. So after working with us, you get more sales, high market share, you annoy the competition, your staff feel more engaged. Might just be worth doing the afters of you underneath. I think after I've done my stuff, my job is to make my family safe, make my family proud, help my clients win a lot of money, help people who hire me look good to their colleagues. That's what my job is. It's not to be a consultant. Okay, everyone, we're going to do, I want to get a few afters down just so we're making sure we're all thinking the right way. And then the coffee's coming out quite soon. So we're going to have a break where you do three things. You can summarise 2 of those things in 4 words, liquid in, liquid out. So make sure you do the right thing in the right room, obviously. That would be nice. And the other thing I want you to do is I'm going to give you an exercise to develop afters a bit further. All right, so for now, let's just get them out and have a bit of a share. Don't worry if your competitors could say this. I'll show you how to differentiate from them later on. But tell me some afters you've written down. So after working with you, I'm better off because what?
Help clients make more money from their customers.
Okay, good. So I can actually make money from my customers. Good. What else?
Help you talk to the right people.
Okay, good stuff. So after working with you, I'm talking to the right people. Good. What else?
New markets.
Yo, there we go. I'm in new markets. What else?
Make better decisions.
Okay, loving that one. Very important. Make better decisions. Anyone who works in an advisory capacity at all helps people make better decisions, if they do good advice. What else?
Sell more.
Yep, sell more, save time.
Great to your boss.
Yeah, look great to your boss. Okay, let me stop there. They're all fab. The really sharp people in the room will think, what's supposed to go on the right-hand side here? Basically, afters can either be more of a good thing or they can be less of a bad thing. In other words, you take bad things away. Yeah? So some of you, I guess, if I could put the word less in front of it, it could go on this side. So am I right that some of you reduce people's cost? Yeah? So I could have a less or no costs. What else do you reduce for people?
Stress.
Stress, thank you. What else?
Workload.
Say again?
Workload.
Workload. I thought you said lifeblood. I thought that's a bad thing.
Less mistake.
Say again?
Less mistake.
Yeah, good.
Time.
Yeah, less wasted time. Anybody reduce anyone's risk at all? Yeah, reduce anyone's admin at all? Reduce anyone's hassle at all? These are the sort of things that we do. Now, there's 2 different companies I could buy from today, ladies and gentlemen. One of them can help me do this. Help me make more money, help me talk to the right customers, get in new markets, make better decisions, make more sales, give me more time, help me look good to the boss and other stakeholders, and also reduce my costs, my stress, my workflow, my mistakes, my wasted time, my risk and my admin. Or I could buy from another company that's proposal described it like that. Do you get this? Nobody wants what you are. Nobody wants what you do. They want what you cause. I don't want a website. I want someone to cause my sales to go up. I don't want someone who thinks they're ace and tells me they're ace. I want someone who will make me ace. Now, you see, the thing is, when you talk to people, you don't know which afters they're most interested in. But let's say you were selling to my dad, all right? Now, my dad wants to make sure he's talking to the right customers. My dad wants to make better decisions, and also he wants to reduce his risk a bit. So they're the 3 afters my dad wants. You could deliver all those, but he just wants those 3, as it happens. Okay? And I know this because he's my dad and he's told me every single day I see him. Right? If you were selling to my dad and you knew he wanted those 3 things, would you have a good chance of at least impressing him? Yeah? Probably how would the conversation start? With that, yeah? Trust me, if you say to your son Andy tells me you're interested in these 3 things, has he got that right? And Dad goes, yeah, he has. And you say, I think we could help with that actually. Do you mind if we just explore how we might achieve that together? Do you honestly think he's thinking, yeah, but when were you founded? 1922, there you go. Now, normally, of course, you don't have the buyer's son saying, by the way, me dad wants these. So what's a really good way of finding out what afters someone's interested in? That's good. Yeah? And there's 2 times you can prepare your questions, either in advance, bounce it off your mates, try them out, role play it, feel comfortable, or you can hope the right stuff happens to come out in a sales meeting when it never has done before in your life. Anybody? Nobody? You don't have to prepare in advance. I find this a very strange thing, but in my experience, salespeople often prepare what they're going to say, but they don't prepare what they're going to ask. So they prepare, listen to my sales pitch, but they don't think of questions to ask to get them talking. Did some work with RSA a while ago, and they had a slide which said, these are the 5 main benefits of working with us. And the question they asked at the end was, any questions about that? And the client said no, and just moved on. And I thought, what a wasted opportunity. So I changed the question to this. They went through the 5 and said, before we carry on, which of those 5 do you think your clients would be most interested in? And the broker would say, oh, number 4. They go, oh, really? Why is that? They go, well, and then all of a sudden they're off talking about the stuff that's sexy to the client. Yeah? So what we really need to do is, I think, 3 things to open our eyes. Firstly, see how good you are at afters at the minute. That'll take 20 seconds. Secondly, be better at being aware of what afters we actually cause. And then thirdly, we need to know how to ask good questions to find out which 3 my dad happens to care about. So if you like, we're going to go on a quick afters journey. It'll help if you're caffeined up to the eyeballs, so we'll have a break in a sec, liquid in, liquid out. And then when we come back, we're going to have a look at how we can find out what these afters are. So, the first exercise, very simply, can you get your documents with you? You know what afters are now, they're those sort of things. Get the documents out you brought with you, and I want you to read down from the top for 20 seconds and see how many times an after appears. Is there one on the title page? Are there any in the contents page? Are there any in the top of the executive summary? Okay, everyone. So I guess either you'll have found them in one of 3 places. Either nowhere, or after stuff, like at the bottom of paragraphs and the bottom of sections, or at the beginning of stuff. From what we said before, which of those 3 is best? Got to be at the beginning. Yeah, what's the problem with it coming after everything else? They've lost it and they might not even read it. And if your whole section's called About Us, they might not read it at all because of the title. And what's the problem with not putting them in at all? Well, they certainly can't read them then, can they? So what I would like you to do is, during the break, I'm going to give you, it'll probably take about half an hour this to do this exercise and have coffee and stuff. If you're all back in your seats at 20 minutes having done it, then that's fine, we can just carry on. So 20 to 30 minutes in total. I want to just explore these afters a bit more for you. I'm going to ask you, please, to construct a 3-column table. My customers tell me this is super useful for building confidence in sales meetings. So build your confidence so you can build the customer's confidence. In the left-hand column, I'm going to ask you to write down the main 4 or 5 afters your clients tend to want. Yep. Now that should be relatively straightforward, hopefully, because you've already done this here. So just choose 4 or 5 of these. So what you might well do in the left-hand column here is say, well, after working with us, you might get money, you might get time, you might get praise, you might reduce costs. Actually, that's it. They're the main 4. So in the left-hand column, you're going to write the main afters your clients tend to want. In the middle column is great for confidence. The middle column, I want you to write, why is that after good for them? So you're going to look at the after and think, why is that good? Why is that good? So let's choose the after of more time. If you give someone more time, why is that good? Treat me like an idiot. Why is it good to have more time? Yeah, good. You can focus on what you want to do. That's good. So in here you'd say you'd focus on what you want to do or on your core job, whatever. Why else is it good to have more time?
Frees you up to do other things.
Yeah, good. You're freed up. Why else is it good to have more time?
Focus on priorities.
Yeah, good. You focus on priorities. Why else is it good? Think of negative things we're taking away. If you give people more time. Less stress, less pissed off, less going home taking work with you. Less taking out on the kids because you've had a rubbish day at work. Less back-to-back meetings. Less this, less this. So all of a sudden, the after of time sounded quite good. But once you start saying, well, you can focus on what you want to do, take away all the stress of this, actually get more done from the day and leave on time, well, that's getting better. The afters of more sales are you can invest the sales in other stuff. You're going to hit your target. It's good for your CV. It's good for your da-da-da. It annoys the competition and so on. And then the right-hand column, I want you to think about the best proof you have got that you can deliver what's in the left-hand 2 columns. So the left-hand 2 columns are talking about the client. After working with us, they have more time, and that's good for them because of this, 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 this. The proof that I can give them all this time, well, how could you prove to me you could give my business more time? Yeah, case studies, testimonials, client lists of people you've saved time, maybe your process for saving people time. So in that right-hand column, you're going to write down very precise examples of proof. So in the right-hand column, don't just, I mean this nicely, don't be lazy and put case studies. Say, case study when we work with Mrs. X at company Y, where we saved 24 hours. So I want it to be as precise as possible, the proof. Not a generic case studies, but case study with person X when we did Y. Does that make sense? So success with this, you're going to have a 3-column table. I won't choose any more than 4 or 5 afters because if you like the idea, you can practice it more when you get home. You're going to have 4 or 5 afters on the left. For each one, probably 2 or 3 why is that goods. And probably 2 or 3 proofs. You're going to find that a lot easier if you are high as a kite on caffeine. So it's about 25 to 4 now. Are you all right if you come back about 4 o'clock? Yep. Does that make sense to you? I have nobody to play with for 25 minutes. So if you want to ask me any questions, I'm in Andy Corner. And if you don't, I'll see you at 4 o'clock. Thanks, everyone.